Welcome to Malifaux University. 102. Models and Stat Cards. Let's look at one of the most important components of Malifaux, models. Like it says in the rulebook, Malifaux is a skirmish game. Remember this when you're planning out what crews you want to buy and build. You're not ever going to put dozens of models on the table. You'll probably never put more than 10 on the table, and usually only 7 or 8. You might want a few extra models on hand though, so you can mix up your crew for the sake of variety, but skirmish means small scale, not massive armies. When we talk about models, we mean 3 things. First, the model itself. This is the plastic sculpture that you assemble and paint. They start out as pieces on a sprue that you cut off and glue together. They're usually gray plastic, but older editions of the models are made of metal. All are legal for tournament play. Occasionally, Wyrd will release special edition models made of translucent plastic, and those can make for some really interesting effects when you paint them right. Sometimes, there will also be an alternate sculpt of a model that can be fun to add in when you find one. Alternate sculpts still count as the original versions in all ways. The second part of the model is the base to which the model is attached. Malifaux keeps it simple in that there are only 3 base sizes, 30mm, 40mm, and 50mm. It can be handy to remember that 30mm is just over an inch, 40mm is just over an inch and a half, and 50mm is so close to 2 inches as to make no difference. The model must be attached to a base of the size stated on its stat card, but it doesn't have to be the original base. Some companies produce artistic diorama-style bases that are completely legal for play as long as the diameter is the right measurement. Wyrd and other companies also produce base inserts that fit inside the base ring to create an awesome presentation for your well-painted models. The third component of each model is its stat card. Each model will come with a stat card, but if you buy older models and need the current edition card, you can download those from Wyrd's website in the notes below. The Malifaux app also contains the cards for every model. It can be handy to download the cards for other models so you can refer to them during play and understand what your opponent's models can do. The rest of this video will explore the information you'll find on the model's stat cards. Each stat card has the model's name and title. The titles are different versions or variants of the model you can choose to play with. Right now, no minions have titles because they aren't that special. A couple of enforcers and henchmen have titles, but they don't have untitled versions, so it's still just the one version of those models. Every master model has 1 or 2 titled versions, including Lucas McCabe, who has 3 titled versions, but no untitled version. The titles alter the model's abilities and actions, often creating an entirely new gameplay experience. Some titles make their models more challenging to play, while others simplify the models. Check out the Leader Analysis 1000 series of videos for comparisons of each eligible crew leader and their titled variants. The cost of a model is how many soulstones it costs before a game to hire this model into your crew. You and your opponent agree on a game size, 25, 40, 50 soulstones, any number you both like, but most games are 50 soulstones. When you're first starting out, you may not have enough models for a game that size, so just play a smaller game. Fewer models are easier to manage anyway. For example, this Kairos core box contains Kairos, the master, an Eternal Flame, her totem, a fire starter, and 3 fire gamen. When Kairos is the leader of the crew, both she and her totem are free. The fire starter is 7 soulstones, and each fire gamen is 4. That means you have a 19 soulstone crew right out of the box. If you play a 25 soulstone game, you'll have 6 left over for shenanigans. Characteristics are in italics and show some fundamental traits of the model, such as its station in the crew, master, henchman, enforcer, minion, or totem, and what it's made of, living, undead, beast, construct, and so on. Several game effects are related to these characteristics and will be discussed in later videos. The faction is represented by the symbol here. There are 8 factions in Malifaux, and every model belongs to one of them. Some models belong to 2 at the same time, though. Jacob Lynch is a Ten Thunders model, while Jackdaw is a dual-factioned, outcast resurrectionist model. The faction of your crew's leader has some influence over what models you are allowed to hire into your crew, but those details will be addressed in another video. The keywords in bold capitalized letters are Wyrd's way of making crews more thematic and streamlined. Take another look at Jacob Lynch. He's a Ten Thunders faction master, so he can technically hire any Ten Thunders model. His story is that he's the owner of the Honeypot Casino, so he has the Honeypot keyword. All other Honeypot keyword models fit into his casino theme. Mr. Graves is a bouncer. Gwyneth Maddox is a hostess and dealer. The Beckoners are escorts, and so on. If Jacob hires a Ten Thunders model that doesn't have the Honeypot keyword, the Soulstone cost is increased by 1. If I'm playing Jacob Lynch, and I really want to use this yokai model, I can, but instead of 6 soulstones, this model will cost me 7 to hire. The exceptions to this are models with the versatile characteristic, like this obsidian statue. It belongs to the Ten Thunders faction, as shown by its faction symbol, but it can be hired with no extra cost into any Ten Thunders crew for its price of 9 soulstones. If there were Honeypot keyword models outside of the Ten Thunders faction, Jacob Lynch would be allowed to hire them due to that common keyword. The details of that process will be covered in another video. It is easy to become overwhelmed by the many options available through factions and keywords. At this point in the game, keep it simple. Pick a faction you generally like. Look at the master models within that faction and pick one of those. Get that master's core box and start there. If you want to add models to your crew, look at the keywords that master has and find other models with that keyword that you would also like to use. There's no need to rush. If you would appreciate a more structured way of looking at the crews available, head over to the 1000 series of videos titled Leader Analysis. We here at Malifaux University have developed an objective, quantifiable way of comparing crew leaders and identifying what makes one model more or less challenging to play than another. Naturally, what will be simple for one player to grasp will be more difficult for another player, so watch these videos with the understanding that opinions will vary, and you should definitely make your own. Each model has 4 stats: defense, willpower, movement, and size. Defense represents the model's ability to protect itself from physical harm and attacks. Willpower represents the model's ability to protect itself from mental harm and also its power of self-control. Movement shows how far in inches that a model can normally walk. Size represents how much space the model takes up. Keep in mind that size as a stat is only loosely tied to the physical size of the model. This Gremlin Wrastler model is size 1, but so is this Gremlin Master Captain Zip. Mr. Graves is a size 3 model, but so is this Obsidian statue. This Groot Sling model and this Lord Chompybits model are both size 4. Before a player gets bent out of shape about size and base diameter and reality, and starts any sentence that begins with "actually," remember, it's just a game. These are just models, and it's all an approximation of reality. These stats are used in the game by adding the number of the stat to the number and suit of the card you flip. For example, if an enemy model shoots my obsidian statue with a revolver and I need to use defense to block it, I would flip the top card of my deck, an 8 of masks in this case, and add 3, since that's the obsidian statue's defense stat, giving me a total of 11 of masks. We'll get more into duels in another video. These circles across the bottom show a model's health. This represents how much damage it can take before it is killed. If you use the app, you can track damage there by tapping on the circles. Many players put their cards in plastic sleeves and write on them with wet erase markers. You want to avoid dry erase markers as they wind up staining the sleeves and making it hard to see what you've marked. If you use wet erase markers, be careful handling the cards, as your marks are easy to accidentally erase. Another option is to use dice that you turn down as your model takes damage. If your model has more than 6 health, you'll need to use 2 dice, or polyhedral dice like used in most role-playing games. Your friendly local game store should have the sleeves and dice you need if you choose to go that route. The rest of the text on the front of a stat card is the model's abilities. It's important to remember that these are always on, unless the text says otherwise. Look at Mr. Graves' abilities. He always has black blood and is hard to kill, but that only matters when he is attacked. He's always ruthless, but that only matters when he attacks someone else, sometimes. The text of his Rig the Deck +2 ability says that if he's going to use this, he has to do it at the start of his activation. He also acts as a bodyguard, protecting friendly models who are nearby, which is important to remember when your opponent tries to shoot another one of your models which is within 2 inches of Mr. Graves. That's a lot to remember. This is where it's important to be patient with your opponent and with yourself and to demonstrate good sportsmanship. You have many models with many different abilities, and it's going to take a while before you are proficient at using them. Play friendly games. Most models can take 2 actions when they are activated. Say you move Mr. Graves for his first action, and then realize you forgot his Rig the Deck ability, which is supposed to be used at the start of his activation before he takes any actions. Ask your opponent if it's okay to use that ability now. If you haven't flipped any cards yet, it doesn't make any practical difference and should be okay. Even in competitive tournament play, players will often be gracious and lenient in situations like this, just don't count on it too often. On the back of each stat card are the model's actions. There are 2 or 3 types of actions, depending on how you look at it. Attack actions are ways your model tries to hurt or affect other models. Tactical actions are ways your model tries to affect the space around him or the game itself. Bonus actions have a little lightning bolt next to their names and can be found in either attack or tactical actions. All models can usually take 2 actions whenever they activate. Each model can also usually take 1 bonus action, the ones with the little lightning bolt, for free, in addition to the other actions. If you're playing an encounter of 50 soulstones or greater, then your crew leader and any other master models all get a 3rd action, though they still can take only 1 bonus action during their activations. The last detail on a stat card is the model's base size, shown here at the bottom on the back. Some other miniature warfare games don't tell you what base size the model should be on, and this has caused problems in tournaments when a player mounts a model on a smaller or larger base than it came with. In Malifaux, you can use any base you want, as long as its outer diameter is the size listed on its stat card. That's the overview of models and stat cards. Pick up a printable set of all the markers and tokens you need to play Malifaux in the Wargames Vault. If you haven't already, join our Patreon for early, ad-free access to all new content, and be sure to visit the Malifaux University gift shop for the latest in Malifaux-themed shirts, hoodies, drinkware, and more. Links are in the notes below. And remember, play friendly games, keep it simple, and have fun.